Hi guys! Last month, I gave my old glasses a full leather wrap. They've been with me for years, and since I never had a case that fit, I thought why not make my own? At first, I had no real plan, just a fuzzy idea in my head. But once I started sketching things out and messing around with the envelope bag, I realized that what I want not just a glasses case, but a small functional pouch that happened to fit glasses. In the last episode, I made the side parts out of the real leather and showed you how I did it. I left the top edge open as a result by skiving the middle for the piping straight. But honestly, the more I looked at it, the more I feel like it might not hold up as well in the long run. So today in this episode 4, I will go forward and make the new version to see if it can keep the top edge intact without cutting. Here a bunch of stuff I will share, and hopefully a few mistakes you can avoid too. Alright, let's get started. So here's the updated version I made. On the left is the old piece, and on the right side is the refined one. In the original design, I had cut through the top edge of the side part just to help to skive the middle easily. But that decision came back by me. The edge looked messy and weak. That's what pushed me to go back and iterate. The new one that still kept the 0.5mm wide piping seam all the way around, while maintaining the full 10mm fold on top. Instead, my plan is to skive only the middle part down to 0.5mm, which means that I'm no longer cutting the fold edge. So the skiving technique on the back will be totally different this time. This is the mother template. You will see I made a separate little piece for this part. It's all calculated out, and I even wrote down the measurements clearly. 3 layers of the paper piled up and glued together. Let me show you how it works. Placing the piece right on top of the real leather, clapping it tight, and run both through the skiving machine together. Doing it this way lets me get exactly the thickness I want without messing with the other parts of the leather. So far, I got a better idea. I made another paper template just for marking the lines. Align the leather in place based on this one, and once that's done, I can take the helper template off. Basically, these two work together as a partner. I use them both to get everything just right. Is the real leather I prepared for this side part? I cut just a little bigger than the final size. This is how it looks originally. And the small piece here is for testing out the skiving later. So first, I run the leather through the skiving machine to thin it out. Here's what the back looks like after. But since the leather is a natural thing, the thickness can be a little different all over the place, just around 1.5mm. A little variation is totally normal. Once I'm happy with it, we are good to go. This is what it looks like after cutting the edges. I gotta cut those little notches too. Next is to stick the paper template on the back of the leather with double-sided tape to keep everything from moving around. Then the little paper piece was applied with a bit of glue for sticking. I used the paper template to line up the spot carefully, press a small piece right where it's supposed to go. And just like that. Actually, lots of skiving process were filmed that you can find in the last episode. Instead, I'm gonna skip showing it here, just to check out the finished result. The backside clearly shows me the thinned area, just at the outline of the little pen. The thickness is pretty much what I aimed for, around 0.5mm. This was the idea from last time, looking how different it is when you compare. The main thing I'm focusing on improving here is no more cutting on the fold edge. But unfortunately, I ended up with a pretty big fail because this one more step forward template was way too stiff. At this point, you are probably wondering, what did you do after that? The story actually starts with the mother template. You guys already knew that this was my first one, and I got this matching set from it. Using this set, I was able to skive just the middle part on the leather without messing with the rest. That spot on the back right there. Then I started wondering, what if I could skive all the area I want at once by using this shape? I mean, since the middle parts worked out, by following this logic, the edges should work the same way. But things didn't go well. The paper template got crushed, and the leather was ruined too. This attempt failed. Anyways, one step back, there's nothing wrong with this area. Before starting, let me show you the former one. The top part's cut open. Now picture this. Do you think this way might actually work better? On this new paper template, I've already marked where the starts and ends of the piping strip. Now I'm copying those marks onto the leather, guiding with a ruler to line up the start and the end points for cutting. Once it's done, you can see this is exactly the final result I wanted. Just like I imagined, the fold edge stays fully intact, and the new skiving method lets me thin out the middle part just right. This is a leather piping strip that will go in the middle later. Just giving you a quick preview. It's gonna look like this once it's stitched in. Based on the start and end points, I folded the ends of the piping strip at a 90-degree angle. I actually showed this trick in the last episode, so if you are curious, go check that out. Then I just tacked the extra leather at both ends to the backside, trimmed out the extra leather that creates a nice straight edge in the middle. Here is what front looks like. I'm just temporarily holding it in place with glue for now. Next is sewing. I'm using a pretty thin nylon thread, and the seam width is about 5 mm. For the very first stitch, I do a back stitch to lock the thread in place. Before finishing, I change the angle, where it helps lock the thread tighter on the underside. Basically, I don't want any knots showed on the surface. Both sides are down, that's it. A cool thing about using nylon thread is melting the ends with the leather to lock them in place. That way, the thread won't loosen over time. Take a look. Here's what the front and the back sides look like after. Now I'm attaching the piping strip to the side part. Fold it in half, then glue it from the middle out toward both sides, leaving a bit of extra materials. The key to gluing is making sure the glue spread out evenly. I'm mixing some thinner with the glue and stir it up before using. The thinner evaporates super fast, so I have to keep adding more all the time. I found that using a nylon brush to apply the glue is way easier. Here, start brushing just around the edge. When the first coat dries, I'll do it again. See, the glue is super thin, but enough for the temporary hold. I glue the piping strip start from the middle, moving out toward the sides. It's easy to stick on places with gentle curves. But for the corners, because the leather stretches, I gotta make little cuts to release the tension. There's no strict rule for where and how many cuts. You just wanna make sure it bends naturally. Don't cut too deep, or the cuts might show later. Since I'll finish up the ends later, and starting from the middle also helps avoid running out of the piping strip, it all works out. I take out the paper template and mark the cutoff point on the piping strip. At this stage, using the fold lines and the cuts as reference to find the right spot. That's why I always say the template needs to have plenty of info on it. Now you get it, right? With the mark down, it's time to start folding and finishing the ends. I press down with my hand on the mark. After marking up the fold, some glue goes on to make it stick nice and strong later. Now I can pin that fold tight and also add more glue on the side part. To keep things neat, I make sure the fold's angle matches the edge of the side piece, and do the same thing on the other side. Now the extra piping strip can be trimmed off. It's time for sewing. I've already set up the machine and adjusted stopper positions. I do a backstitch to lock the thread in place at both the start and the end points. Here is how it looks when it's done. Take a look at both the front and back sides. Now what I want is to fix the loosened thread ends, so I pinched the sewn area to get a feel for how it would look. Figured adding one more stitch at the bottom might help lock it better. Here are 2 cans of wax thread for hand sewing, but I'm sticking with the thinner one. I got all kinds of hand sewing needles, but this time the straight one will do just fine. My stitching method is just wrapping the thread around twice, but I noticed the thin thread didn't help too much. Maybe the thread's too thin to lock tight, I wondered. So I switched to the thicker one. It definitely feels stronger, but when I pull, it can't tore the leather. Damn, looks like this way not gonna work. This piece is ruined. I came up with another idea. How about adding one more row of stitching? Seems like it helped a bit. This side part looks more 3D now. Definitely better than before. That was a happy accident. I'm gonna put the loose thread ends on hold for now, and just keep moving forward. Hey, did you notice that? The shape of the back flap changed? Honestly, I like the rounder look way more. After cutting out the rough shape, I marked the position on the back of the leather with a pen. Once both sides are fixed, I moved on to set the top and the bottom positions. For all the straight lines, I choose to use the ruler instead of the paper pattern. Did you notice I didn't actually cut out the flap in a round shape? Wanna know why? I'm gonna keep that secret for now, so I went ahead and marked the fold line. This part's gonna get skived later for folding. When cutting long edges, it's best to have a metal block or something heavy to hold the leather down. Otherwise, it's super easy to slip and mess up the cut. One bad slash, and the whole piece is ruined. Here's what I'm doing. Making sure the notch position on the back line up exactly with the side piece. This goal is to double check if all markings are spot on or not, but just eyeballing it won't cut it. So first I gonna skive the back edges as preparation. Here are the skive fold line and both sides of the bag. The exact steps and the machine setup I showed in the last episode. So if you are interested of how to do it, please check it out. Getting an exact notch position cannot be done with just a paper pen. The only way is to stick the actual side part onto the back body. So I brush glue on both edges. Just gotta be careful not to overdo the glue. Sticking it on isn't hard. Just line up the edges. Go slow around the corners. As you stick, the back starts to get 3D shape. The width I'm gluing matches the actual stitching width exactly. Before this step, you're gonna be sure about the leather thickness. Otherwise, the positions won't line up right. That's why, even with the same design, you need to test different leather types. So the back's glued up now, and my goal here was to find the exact notch spots on the back body. I marked the spots on the edge with a pen. Honestly, I used to skip this step, thought that the paper pattern was good enough, but I was wrong. This way is more accurate and saved a ton of time. After marking, double checking the positions again with the paper pattern. This is when you really see why this step matters. It gave me the right answer. I actually use this to reverse the most accurate spots back onto the paper pattern. Now you know why I didn't cut the flap earlier, right? The answer is I gonna figure it out from the bottom up first to get the flap positioned just right. My breakdown may seem a bit detailed and even boring, but here's a ton of real hands-on knowledge packed. I hope it sparks some ideas for you guys. Next episode, I'm gonna keep building. Let's see how it looks once I got everything sewn up. See you in the next one.